By the way, where's Dave Grush been? Where's Lue Elizondo been? There's rumors, by the way, that Lue Elizondo is going to be on Theories of Everything with Curt. And by the way, Theories of Everything with Curt is a huge part of the Lue Elizondo problem. How many times did Curt get to interview him? Why didn't he ask him the hard questions? Like, what happened to all that money from TTSA? Why didn't you build a spaceship like you promised investors? Why did you quit? And what happened to the millions of dollars that investors were bilked out of? No investors made their money back, to my knowledge. Why won't anybody ask Elizondo the hard questions? And Curt, if you're going to take the money from doing an interview with him, then it's your responsibility to ask the hard questions people want answered. Or are you going to do another circle jerk and just take the money and run, Curt? How many hundreds of thousands of monetized views has Curt from Theories of Everything gotten and made money from circle jerking Lue Elizondo and refusing to ask him the hard questions? All it would take would be one interview. We could clear everything all up. Where you claim that you ran a $22 million funded UFO program. Turns out that was false. Can you explain that or clarify that for us? You promised investors while you were a member of TTSA, along with your buddies, that you were going to create a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world. What happened to the spaceship? Where's the millions of dollars that you collected? How much money did you make, Lue Elizondo, from TTSA, where every investor got bilked out of money and nobody made their money back from their investment, to my knowledge? These are the questions that people should be asking Lue Elizondo. And anybody that interviews Lue Elizondo and doesn't start asking him these hard questions, we will highlight here. And we will let everybody know that you're too much of a coward to ask the real questions. But everybody knows you can't get an interview with Elizondo unless you're going to softball circle jerk him and let him just talk. And now we see how terrible Lue Elizondo's influence has gotten. I am going to do this. We're going to go there. There's rumors that Lue Elizondo will soon be appearing on Theories of Everything with Curt. And I'm just going to I'm going to just say this, and I'm going to be as polite as possible as I can to Curt from Theories of Everything. There was a time when I truly admired and respected Curt from Theories of Everything because he was willing to engage some of these UFO celebrities with hard questions. But there's a caveat to that, and that is, or caveat, I don't know, caveat. I believe that, listen, a lot of people are going after Curt from Theories of Everything, and I've tried to stay out of it. I did make one very disparaging comment on Twitter, which I don't apologize for, because there was a time when Theories of Everything with Curt was the great hope of people who are tired of these UFO celebrities pushing their false narratives and not being challenged. And there was a time when Curt was willing to accept critical and hard questions from viewers and ask them, these UFO celebrities, hard questions. But I think he got spooked, and you can look on our new short section. Curt once accepted a very critical question from me, and I was shocked. I was like, this guy with this huge show is going to actually ask this woman a real question that matters? And that was when he asked Linda Moulton Hale, why did you sell a completely and totally fake picture of an alien from a 2005 video game cover and put it behind a paywall and tell people it was a real picture of an alien? And listen, she lost her goddamn mind and melted down. That's what happens when you confront somebody that has no evidence or has fake evidence and a faith-based belief system. She lost her mind. So now, and by the way, after that, I think Curt, and a lot of people have agreed with this, after that Linda Moulton Hale meltdown, Curt pulled back from actually asking all the rest of the people on his show, including Stephen Greer and Lue Elizondo and many others, any hard or critical questions. And to be very honest with you, and I'm being 100% cards on the table, my heart on my sleeve, I like Curt from Theories of Everything. I like, for a time, I liked his approach to try to, get to the secrets of the universe. Let's bring all the greatest scientists in here. But a lot of the criticism about Curt from Theories of Everything is that after this Linda Moulton Hale meltdown, he didn't want to get confrontational. He wasn't prepared for the catastrophic meltdown, right, that people would go through when you confront their fake nonsense. So he pulled back, and basically he did the UFO circle jerk, just like all the other UFO circle jerkers. He took the clicks and the views, and he made all that money hosting these liars, these grifters, these false prophets of disclosure, and not being critical and asking the hard questions. And I get it. In fairness to Curt, I don't know the guy well, but I got to know him a little bit through messages or whatever, enough to know that I think he's a genuinely nice person. And he's one of those people that doesn't like upsetting people. He doesn't like conflict. But I'm here to tell you, Curt from Theories of Everything, if you're not willing to ask the hard questions, then you have become another UFO circle jerker, another part of the problem. So now there's rumors that Lue Elizondo is going to go on Theories of Everything, and I'm all for that. But I noticed that when Curt interviewed Stephen Greer, he brought on a huge supporter of Stephen Greer and did not ask any critical or hard questions, because he was being helped navigate that interview with a huge fan that didn't want to ask any hard questions. No, you can't do that anymore, Curt. So, I've been trying to be fair with you. The Average Chris says, if it is true that Theories of Everything Curt are interviewing Lue Elizondo, I have a question I would like you to ask him, and it's important to all veterans that he answers this. In this video with Tom DeLonge, did one, Tom make this story up, or two, did Lue tell him this story? Three, did this actually happen? Thank you. So, these are important questions, and I agree with the Average Chris. Now, let's listen to this completely and totally fake story that Tom DeLonge claims that Lue Elizondo told him.
A special forces operative, like a soldier. He fought. Yeah. He fought.
According to Tom DeLonge, Lue Elizondo was a special forces operative.
A soldier. He fought. Yeah. He fought the Taliban in Afghanistan like a month after 9/11 with Secretary of Defense Mattis, General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis. Yeah. Mattis saved his life. Lue got pinned down in a huge machine gun fight. God, such and bullshit. He called for air support, and they said there's nothing in the area. And he said, I looked at my friend. I said, we are going to die. We're dead. There's like 100 of them shooting, and they're pinned behind a rock. Then he heard something on the radio, and Mattis comes flying in on like one of those Bradley vehicles, saying, and big door flies down. He's like, get in, boys. He's in a t-shirt. He's on busy. I'll get to you in a second. He's on the automatic grenade launcher, just wiping people out.
That is a completely and totally fake story. I'm sorry, but General Mattis was not on a Bradley. He wasn't shooting people with a grenade launcher or a machine gun. This is a completely and totally fake story. And somebody needs to ask Lue Elizondo to clarify this situation. Did he tell Tom DeLonge that story? Did he just make up fake stories that he tells people? We have seen him embellish and lie about his background and his accomplishments before. After all, he lied to the New York Times about running a $22 million funded Pentagon UFO program for 10 years that never existed. So, Curt from Theories of Everything, I have a challenge for you. And I get that Curt, a lot of people are going to try to weasel out of this challenge. People are going to say that I'm going to yell or scream at Lue Elizondo, or I'm going to be disrespectful, or any of that. I give my word of honor, Curt from Theories of Everything. If you bring me, along with you, on that podcast with Lue Elizondo and allow me to ask 10 questions, just 10 questions, I will do so respectfully. I won't use any ad hominem attacks. I won't personally attack him. I will simply ask him 10 questions. 10 questions. You do a 4-hour podcast, certainly there's time to let me come on, a critical voice in the world of UFOs and aliens, a skeptical voice, and clear up a few things about Mr. Elizondo and his various claims. I'm going to ask him about what has been described as the TTSA techno scam. I'm going to ask him about these fake stories. I'm going to ask him about his remote viewing superpowers. I'm going to ask him, about clearing up the discrepancy of his claims of running a $22 million funded Pentagon UFO program. I'm going to ask him to respond to the now verified information that he used sock puppet accounts, Lue Elizondo did, in the form of faceless bureaucrat to harass, intimidate, and attack his critics. I'm going to ask him every hard question, 10 of them, that members of the UFO community desperately want and need somebody to ask him. I give you my word of honor, I will not raise my voice, yell, scream, be belligerent, or be disrespectful. I will be calm as a kitten and ask my 10 questions, and we'll see what happens. But Curt from Theories of Everything, if you're not willing to do a real interview, then don't do it. If Lue Elizondo gives a real interview, I would love to be a part of that. I'll volunteer my time. I don't want anything. Tell me where and when. I'll be there to do it. 10 questions. But I have to warn you, Curt from Theories of Everything, if you're not willing to do that and do a real moral and ethical correct thing in calling Lue Elizondo on his years of falsehoods, then you shouldn't do the interview. Don't think that I and everyone else is just going to allow you to take those clicks and views and make that money and do the circle jerk softball interview with Lue Elizondo, or allow him to use your platform for damage control for all of these damaging revelations about him that have been coming out over and over and over again. I further challenge you to let me bring Jeremy McGowan on and let Jeremy McGowan ask 10 questions, or let each of us ask 5 questions on this podcast. But I truly know and believe in my heart that Lue Elizondo will never agree to such an appearance. And again, I don't want to get personally insulting, but we have seen this man is not a moral or ethical man. He's not a man of virtue or courage. A man of virtue and courage does not use fake sock puppet accounts to go after his critics, to attack people that call him out on his false statements in that original New York Times article, or are critical of his evidence-free claims. A virtuous man, a courageous man wouldn't do that. So there's my challenge to Curt from Theories of Everything. You say that you want to do things the right way. You've told me that in messages. I still have them. If you want to explore this topic and not be part of the problem, you have to be willing to go out on a limb to do the right thing. You have to be willing to also risk that Lue Elizondo won't do your podcast under these conditions. But I want to ask Curt from Theories of Everything a very serious question. If you approach Lue Elizondo, and by the way, I'll sign a contract that I won't raise my voice, yell, scream, be belligerent, ad hominem attacks, personal attacks, any of that. If you approach Lue Elizondo and say, great, we'd love to have you on the podcast again, but I'm going to bring on a few people with me to help me with the interview. If he says no, you will know, Curt, that if you do it without the help of a critical voice in that interview, you are being used. You are being used if he won't agree to that. If he's got nothing to hide, why wouldn't he agree to that? The only people, Curt from Theories of Everything, that fear questions are people with something to hide. What does Mr. Lue Elizondo have to hide that he fears questions so much that he would refuse to do your podcast appearance just because you're bringing someone else on to ask the questions? And by the way, I'm suggesting that you bring me or Jeremy McGowan or somebody else that's a critical voice onto that show so that you, Curt, don't have to be the bad guy. I kind of get that from Curt. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. He doesn't want to confront people. And I think that it would be the best interview ever done of Lue Elizondo's career, because he's not going to be able to run from the questions, His only hope is going to be to pretend the internet went out or he had a power failure in his house as he runs from the critical questions that I believe will make him melt down worse than Linda Moulton Howe melted down. After all, did you see Linda Moulton Howe when she was forced to answer one question from me? Imagine Lue Elizondo having to sit there and being forced to answer 10 questions from me. There's a reason Lue Elizondo will only do friendly podcasts. And it's not because he's a truth teller. It's not because he's a courageous man. So that's my challenge to you, Curt. And I hope that you will bear no ill will, but I feel obligated to call you out and say, you can't keep doing this circle jerk softball. You're not helping. You're hurting. You're doing more damage than good. And congratulations if you're making money doing softball interviews. If that's all you care about, then that's what you shall have. But if you want the respect of the community and anybody that has a conscience, you'll do the right thing and allow me to come on that podcast with your guest in a respectful, polite tone, and we'll get to the truth. Wouldn't that be something?